Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and today I want to talk about leader-member exchange. Now, this is a theory that people often get confused, and it really isn't that complex. But it really does give a very valid example of a model that we see happening all the time. And that's what we do in academia. We take a look at a phenomena that happens and we try to be able to describe what exactly is happening so that we can benefit from really recognizing how we do things really has consequences or benefits, for that matter of sake. So it really is important to be able to look at leadership theory and ask ourselves, what am I doing? What can I do better? And what kinds of things can I continue to do in order to make a positive difference? Because that really is the goal of being an effective leader. It means that we need to be taking what we do each and every day and making things better. And that really involves making sure that we have other people that we are leading in an effective way by giving them what they need when they need it. Very often, and maybe you've experienced this like I have, we have leaders in our lives that sometimes forget how their actions may be negatively affecting other people, or positively for that effect. But when we don't understand how our actions may be having long-term negative effects, we can continue to do those habits or behaviors and ultimately be making our organization just a little bit weaker. So just like planting a garden, you plant the seed and then something grows into fruition. And with leadership, we need to make sure that we're constantly planting good positive seeds and then nourishing the seeds in a way that it grows and it blooms on an everyday basis. And that essentially is what's happening with leadership member exchange. It's a model to show, how leaders' actions and behaviors are ultimately growing people either in a positive way or a negative way. So let's talk about the theory. This is leader-member exchange, or Lmx theory. So really, essentially, Lmx theory takes a dyadic approach to leadership. It's looking at that relationship between the follower and the leader, and it really takes a look at processes, things that leaders are doing. Now, this theory goes back into the 1970s, about the middle 1970s, and it's undergone some revisions over the years, like any good theory. We have an idea that it looks like there's something that's happening, and then we're constantly testing it to see, does this phenomena really hold weight? And so, as leaders, we constantly should be thinking about what it is that we're doing, what is it that we can be doing, and also recognize that our actions can have serious consequences over the long run. And so we need to be taking a look at each of our individual interactions with other people and recognize that individuals make up teams, and if we're not nourishing each individual in a way that they could positively grow, we may be actually making the team a little bit weaker, and we don't want to do that as leaders. We want to keep things positive. So it really, Lmx theory is about looking at the linkages and the relationships that are being formed with leaders. And this is a study that talks about in-groups and out-groups. If you have ever been in an in-group, it feels great to be a part of a winning team. It feels great to get the support from your leader. And it feels great to get the praise that you need to continue doing the work. On the other side, if you've ever been in what's called an out-group, it doesn't feel very good to be treated like a number. It doesn't feel very good to be given just minimum whatever it takes whether it be praise or resources, it probably feels like you're an out-group. I think about back in high school, and adults just essentially are big kids sometimes. We have people who are treated like they are the rock stars, or the athletes, or the cheerleaders, the cool kids, if you will. And then we have those people who are often seen as the social outcasts. And just because they see things differently and do things differently. Well, it's kind of the same way in the workplace. If bosses are choosing favorites, they're probably continuing to do, the employees are probably continuing to do things that are seen as positive in the eyes of that leader. And if people are the not cool kids or the outcasts, they're probably just doing the bare minimum in order to maintain their employment status. And I guess that really suggests that as leaders we need to recognize how we do things influences the outputs of other people. So you praise employees, you're constantly there to find ways to support and listen and understand and show mutual respect. You kind of get that back. Same thing with if you're just treating employees like they're replaceable and you're just giving them the bare minimum, you're probably cultivating a relationship that's going to get the bare minimum. And that really is essentially what this is all about. But we have to really think about the evolution of relationships as a whole. There's always that beginning, forming stage, and then a norming stage, and then a storming stage before the norming stage. And it's that way with relationships with leaders and employees too. Ultimately, great relationships with leaders and followers really have mutual respect, and they like each other, and they're able to communicate faster, and they have such high levels of trust that it really builds efficiency and effectiveness. And so you'll see these trends in the literature all the time where that's all that mutual trust that really helps people be able to collaborate more effectively, able to influence each other, be able to exchange information even better, and help each other by building up confidence in each other, because we all need each other to do different things for us. And this is kind of a natural phenomenon that I really believe that is formed from when we were babies, through life, as we learn to look up to people and build trusting relationships with others. And then we have this unquenchable need to get more from the people who are in our lives. And so great leaders take a look at the dynamics of relationships, and hopefully, if they want to be truly effective, recognize what they're bringing to that relationship and continue to do things that builds trust, that helps people gain more responsibility and a better understanding on how to do things better, and they're doing it in a positive way. That's how you create positive in-group relationships. On the other hand, you can create negative out-group relationships by finding ways to nitpick the way people do things, or not be able to coach people in a way that helps them see that they should want to change. And so there's a little bit of an art in being able to coach people in a positive way rather than direct people in a way that makes people feel like what they're doing isn't valued and what they do doesn't make a positive difference. And so being a leader truly is somewhat of an art and a science. You want to create teams where everybody feels like they're in that in-group. People want to feel like they're truly depended on and they're doing a great job, and they're always getting the communication that they need, rather than the opposite, where people feel like they're in the out group and they just feel like they're doing everything that they can to hold on, but no matter what they do, they just can't feel like the cool kids, if you will. And so that feeling of inadequacy really keeps a team from really being their very best, because no matter who's in that group, if you have members who are in the out group or feel like they're in the out group because leaders really aren't building those relationships to be as full and positive as they can be, that team is not as strong as it could be. And that really is an important concept to be thinking about. You are only as strong as your weakest link on a team, and it takes a great leader to identify those relationships that are weak in trust and have people who are not being as effective as they possibly can, and then making the time to bring people into the in-group through effective communication and coaching, and creating relationships that are significantly more productive. So ultimately, you want to have high quality leader membership exchanges. The results of doing so have been conclusive that you'll have less employee turnover. It's one of the biggest expenses in any business, having to replace people who have left the organization. Ultimately, if you've hired the very best, you want to nurture people to continue to be the very best and grow it, and that takes high quality leadership. So lower the cost of doing business by taking time to be an effective leader. It lowers turnover, and it helps bring more people into the in-group where there becomes high levels of trust, and that takes time to build. You have more positive performance evaluations when people recognize what's expected of them because a leader has taken the time to support people where they need to be. People generally get the results that the organization is looking for, but that takes great leadership. Great leaders recognize that it's their job to help people grow in the organization. When you have people who have been with the organization for a long time, they understand systems. And ultimately, you want to continue to move people up within the organization by, nurturing those relationships in a positive way. So there'll be more promotions where the talent and wisdom of the organization stays organization. And when people continue to stay with an organization for a long time, they start to take pride and become more committed to helping that organization become stronger and stronger. And so that really should be your goal as a leader, to bring people into the in-groups and recognize who's in an out-group and take them under your wing and be positive and nurture those relationships. People will seek more work and have better positive attitudes when they're in that in-group, and that really is important. As leaders, we have the biggest influence on organizational culture. So take time to recognize, where your people are, who's in the out-group, and help gain people's attention and support by giving more attention to the people who need what they need. Feed them at the right time, nourish them in a positive way. It doesn't make any sense to have people who are in an out group stay on the out group forever, because you're losing them. Make the investment to help people be the very best they can. Work people through the three different levels of leadership relationships. There's the stranger phase, where you're just getting to know people. You kind of have lower quality exchanges. You're motivated people by just directing them within the group. Get to know them a little bit better, and that's phase 2, an acquaintance phase. You want to build relations and help people become interested in taking on new roles and be willing to provide those changes as leaders. You have to convert those relationships from being less formal and make them better quality relationships where there's going to be greater trust and respect. People will look out for themselves if they have to look out for themselves. So people will look out for the group when that relationship is nurtured in the proper way, and that's what we want. We want people who are team oriented, and it's a leader's fault if members are not. You know, you have to take time to lead the right way with the right people. Phase 3 is a mature partnership. That's high quality leader membership exchanges. You know, people need to have mutual trust and respect. People need to be able to know that they can count on people to do things, and that trust is always being tested all the time. So great leaders recognize who's in that in-group and continue to nurture those relationships in a positive way. And they do things by doing favors for people, setting people up for success. You know, the organization needs leaders who recognize what the needs are of their people and then gives them what they need in a nurturing way. So, again, Lmx Theory really is a really cool and simple theory that helps people take a look at, you know, how they relate to one another. You know, it really is, just because you're a follower, people really need to have increased effective communication. And that really takes trust. People must recognize where they are, be able to recognize what those relationships look like. Managers need to be sensitive to how in-groups and out-groups develop within their teams, and they need to be strategic in making sure that they are cultivating networks of people throughout their organizations where trust is high and people are getting what they need to continue to grow within those organizations, and not be pushed out of the organization in an out-group situation, but be brought into an in-group situation, because leadership needs to be an active process where the leaders need to be really thinking about the dynamics and then taking the upper road to nourish those relationships to build mutual trust. All right, I've given you a lot to think about, and I really appreciate your time. Don't hesitate to contact me if you have questions. I hope that you have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm Dr.